This is Left Voices for Wednesday, March 5th, 2014. I'm Andrea Sears. Tonight,
here was a place where Congress is trying to act as a check on the CIA, on the president's power, the executive branch power, and then is being monitored by the CIA while this oversight is going on.
The CIA is accused of spying on Senate Intelligence Committee staff computers. The CIA's Inspector General's office has asked the Justice Department to investigate allegations of malfeasance at the spy agency in connection with a Senate Intelligence Committee report on the CIA's secret detention and interrogation program. That's according to a report published Wednesday in McClatchyDC. The New York Times says Democratic Senator Mark Udall of Colorado sent a letter to President Obama on Tuesday saying, in part, quote, "As you are aware, the CIA has recently taken unprecedented action against the committee in relation to the internal CIA review," end quote. A review that includes details of CIA lies to Congress, the President, and the American people about the effectiveness of the torture of detainees. Christopher Anders, senior legislative counsel with the American Civil Liberties Union, says allegations of CIA spying on a congressional committee are extremely serious.
This is an amazing charge. This is basically the CIA spying on not just anyone in the United States, but spying on the very congressional staff who are charged with oversight over the CIA. It's illegal for the CIA to spy within the United States itself. It can't spy on American citizens or anybody else here at home. And if what they were doing is essentially spying on congressional staff who are in the process of investigating the CIA, that's an unprecedented charge in recent history.
How does this play into the whole concept of the separation of powers and the authority of Congress to provide oversight to federal agencies?
Well, like the way our constitutional form of government works, and it really depends on checks and balances between the different branches of government. And that's the way we have accountability. That's the way the Constitution was set up. That's the way it should work. And this strikes right at the very heart of that separation of powers, that checks and balances, because here was a place where Congress is trying to act as a check on the CIA, on the president's power, the executive branch power, and then is being monitored by the CIA while this oversight is going on. So it really strikes at the very heart of the Constitution, strikes at the very heart of the system of checks and balances. And this is such a significant matter that the CIA Inspector General, from what we understand, has referred the matter as a criminal referral to the Department of Justice to presumably open up a criminal investigation.
Now, the background of this is interesting as well. The surveillance was, according to what I read in the Times, a response to Senator Mark Udall having challenged CIA Director John Brennan in a hearing on a secret CIA review of the detention program that contradicted its response to the congressional report. This gets a little convoluted because there are 3 classified reports that are at issue here. So why is there a document that the Oversight Committee is not supposed to have anyway?
This is another part of the issue that is really concerning. The Senate Intelligence Committee under Chairman Dianne Feinstein had this 4-year investigation into the CIA's role in using torture, and they reviewed about 6 million pages of documents and wrote a report that's about 6,000 pages. And what the CIA was asked to do was to turn over basically all of its documents. But it wasn't until a few months ago that the Senate Intelligence Committee realized that there was an internal CIA report that had been written at the request of former CIA Director Leon Panetta a few years ago. And this report is very critical of the torture program. It's consistent with what the Senate Intelligence Committee found about the CIA program. And the report was hidden from Senate Intelligence Committee. They still haven't been able to get hold of it. And this is certainly the kind of document that the Senate Intelligence Committee should have access to, and of course the American public should have access to it as well. And so it appears from at least one of the newspaper articles that this may have been the precipitating event for this monitoring of the computers being used by the Senate Intelligence Committee staff members.
The Senate Intelligence Committee had to go to a special room to examine classified documents at the CIA's insistence to prepare that report that took 4 years to prepare. Now the Justice Department may be investigating. Will the Justice Department have to jump through hoops to investigate this allegation of spying on the Intelligence Committee?
This is another place where I think the American people ought to be able to trust what's going on in the executive branch, what their own government is doing. The Attorney General should set up this criminal investigation in a way where everyone's going to feel that the investigation was fully performed and fairly performed. One of the concerns that we have is that there may be people within the Department of Justice with close relationships to the CIA who could have influence over this investigation. So the Attorney General, in taking this criminal referral from the CIA Inspector General, has to make sure that this investigation, this criminal investigation the Justice Department will carry out, is done in a way that's free from any influences by anyone with a close relationship with the CIA. And this has been kind of an ongoing concern in problems in the past between the Justice Department and the CIA, because the CIA has relied very often on the Justice Department for legal advice, even when that legal advice has been wrong and has approved acts that are illegal. And some of those staff people might very well be around, and there's a lot of interrelationships between the two agencies. So it's going to be a real challenge, but a challenge that the Attorney General really has to meet to make sure that the investigation is turned over to a prosecutor who is able to conduct a full and fair investigation, free from any influences by the CIA or any of the intelligence agencies.
The relationship between the intelligence committees and the CIA has come in for a lot of criticism over the years because the committees, rather than perform their oversight duties, have often been like a rubber stamp or almost in collusion with the CIA in things that looked like they would be on the face of them illegal. This is certainly a departure from that cozy relationship. What can be done, or is there anything that can be done to be sure that the committee actually does do its oversight, even when it's not its own computers that are at stake?
This has certainly been a big problem, that the way oversight is done over the intelligence agencies has primarily been through the House and Senate Intelligence Committees. The House Intelligence Committee seems to be uninterested in meaningful oversight over the intelligence agencies. The Senate Intelligence Committee is here and there interested in doing oversight, but for the most part has not been a forceful pushback against abuses by the intelligence agencies. In this torture report and investigation that Senate Intelligence Committee conducted, that's certainly an important exception to that general practice. It was a big investigation. It was an in-depth investigation into the use of torture by the CIA, and it's one where the CIA, including John Brennan, have pushed back very, very hard against the Senate Intelligence Committee. What needs to happen now is the Senate Intelligence Committee needs to take the next step, which they've been talking about doing for over a year now, which is take their committee report on the use of torture by the CIA, submit it for declassification, and release it, so the whole world, and certainly all Americans, can see what it is that the CIA is so busily trying to hide. If you look at our constitutional form of government, there's the checks and balances between the different branches of government, but certainly the American people have to be involved in their government, and we can't be involved in our own government if we don't even know what the government is doing. So that certainly is the next step for the Senate Intelligence Committees. They have to take this next step of voting to declassify and release the torture report.
Christopher Anders is Senior Legislative Counsel with the American Civil Liberties Union. This has been Left Voices for Wednesday, March 5th, 2014. Join us again tomorrow for more news and information from a progressive perspective. I'm Andrea Sears for leftvoices.net.